Hi, this is the second video in a series of 6 that I am narrating my book that I wrote called The Life of Dominion. This second chapter is called Believing is Receiving. If you have read or you're reading my book, The Door, you're beginning to understand that God has purpose in what He created, how He created it, and why He created the earth, the world, and everything that's in it. You'll also see His motive for creating mankind and His great purpose in taking mankind through the wilderness of this world. It's telling that God created us in such a way that we can't see Him. For the open and humbled soul, there's plenty of evidence of His presence in the universe, and He'll make Himself and His presence known to that humbled soul. He has devised a way for that to happen. In 1948, a man named Claude Bristol wrote a little book called The Magic of Believing. I read it more than 50 years ago, and I just read it again about 2 years ago. Claude was a successful businessman and used the principles of the power of positive thinking, though the book was yet to be written by Norman Vincent Peale. This principle of believing is not new. We can see evidence of positive thinking in Henry Ford. He believed he could produce and sell an automobile all around the world. He did. And that was before the books I mentioned were written. History is replete with people who accomplished great things. They had to believe they could succeed, or they would have been stopped by the myriad of obstacles each encountered. Many start the race, but few finish the race, and fewer yet get the prize. Why? Is this race that hard? No race is easy. But the race that Claude or Norman or Henry ran, as well as those who followed their teaching, depended on their ability to continue believing with nothing more as the prize for their motivation. When I was 18 years old, I wanted a Pontiac Bonneville convertible. That was 1960. I took a job at Ford Motor Company in Wixom, Michigan. The Lincoln car was produced there. I was introduced to part of the assembly line that welded a large part to one another in the body. I held a large spot welder with handles on each side that was hung from above. As the part came by overhead, I moved the welder nodes into place and squeezed the handles to make several welds. I hated it. It was awful. It was not at all fitting for me. These other men were able to get the rhythm and stand for 8 hours a day as part of the machine squeezing the handles. The smoke and odor from the welds that were made, they were thick in the air, and it was a jail to me, and I knew what jail felt like. My only motivation for working that job was the convertible I wanted. 6 weeks after hiring in, I quit. The prize was not enough. Now, the race I'm speaking of does not depend on our ability to believe, but it does require believing. God created mankind with a specific purpose, and it's in His interests that mankind can exercise dominion in this world. Speaking of the world, please allow me to elaborate on that point. The world is not the earth. The earth is simply the ground we live on, with its plant life and animal life. It's the green grass, the colored flowers, the blue sky. It's totally visible and can be understood with natural reasoning. The world, on the other hand, cannot be readily seen. It's an unseen system of thought that's controlled by an unseen person who is also the enemy of God and man. Man is caught in the web of the world. It is from the world that we see the daily headlines of debauchery. The earth is simply God's beautiful creation that has been infected by the world. Now, if I'm losing you here, read my book, The Door. It's plain, and you'll understand what I'm saying. I will soon be putting it in a video like this one. I said that God created man with a purpose in mind. Part of that purpose is to overcome the world. That is why man can have dominion. But dominion is given to those who meet the conditions that God has laid out for us. The path the Lord has given, the way He has made Himself known to us, and the way we have dominion and freedom is through faith. Believing, according to the writers I mentioned, and true faith are not the same thing. True faith does not depend upon man's ability to believe. True faith is a gift of God, and it's given to those who want it. True faith stands alone and is naturally exercised by those who have this faith The term faith is so easily tossed around in religious circles, but true faith has evidence in the life of the one who has it. Faith is not words. Faith is not simply mental assent to something. Faith is actually substance. The world, the earth, our bodies, and all we can see is temporal, tangible, temporary. We operate in the world by our sense of touch and smell, sight, hearing, and our emotions. True faith is not affected by our senses or by the world. Faith is eternal. Faith is substance. It's not subject to the elements of the world. True faith is of God. Mountains are temporal. Faith is eternal. We are promised that with faith we can move mountains. Now, this is no means a license to run around moving mountains. You'll see in future video chapters that faith indeed can do the impossible, but back to the point, it's through faith alone that we have dominion and freedom in this world. So the question is, if faith is necessary to have dominion, and faith is a gift of God, and is not in me in my natural course, how do I get this faith? I do hope you've asked that question. Remember Claude Bristol? He talked about the magic of believing, and he was right. But he missed the prize, because he told us to believe that we could have things, and he became metaphysical, speaking of the subconscious. He didn't know what else to call it. He never progressed in his writing beyond the ability of mankind. But I've told you that true faith is beyond things and beyond the power of mankind. It was true faith that created all of the material that things are made of. So we begin by believing that God wants us to have faith, and that it is his will to give us true faith, and that true faith is available to us. I told you that the Bible contains the knowledge we need to exercise dominion. It is written in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, that without faith, it's impossible to please God, because they that come to him must believe that he is, and that he rewards those who diligently seek him. Now, earlier, I told you that faith stands alone. Therefore, in order to exercise true faith, there has to be knowledge to which it can be applied. I'll continue this in video number 3.